All right, good morning, guys. Today we're going to work on section 7.3. So if you're taking notes or if you're using your book, 7.3. All right, there, of course, we're going to start with some important things to remember. Today we're going to be talking about composite figures. Those are figures that are made up of triangles, squares, rectangles, and other two-dimensional figures. We're also going to separate a composite figure into different shapes. And when we separate them, it's called decomposition. You're decomposing it. You're breaking it down into the different shapes. And a new shape for most of you might be the kite. A kite is a quadrilateral, all right, that has two pairs of adjacent sides. And I put the definition for adjacent in the parentheses. They are sides that are next to each other with the same length. So these two would be adjacent and these two would be adjacent. It would not be the long and the short, all right? And then the opposite sides have different lengths. And that makes the kite, like you're familiar with flying a kite, it has that same shape. All right, so those are some important things I want you to remember. All right, now this shape here is called a trapezoid. And a trapezoid has two bases, and then the sides can be different lengths. They don't have to be the same. They usually aren't. They can be, but they usually aren't. And they have two bases, and the bases are not the same size either. So it's an unusual shape. We could find the area one of two ways for this trapezoid. We could either break it down. Okay, this would be one way to find it. You could break the shape down and we could make it a rectangle and a triangle. We would add the area of the triangle plus the area of the rectangle together, and that would give me the total area of that shape. So that would give me the area total. Or with a trapezoid, I can also use this formula. A equals 1/2 of the height times base 1 plus base 2. And so if we were to do that using our original shape before we break it down, you wouldn't need to break it down if you were using the formula. So let's go ahead. We're going to write our formula. 1/2 of the height times base 1 plus base 2. So let's plug in the numbers that they've given us. We know our height is where the right angle is formed, and that is 5. Base 1, we're just going to go to the top, and we're going to make that the 9, plus base 2 is 4. All right, so now I'm just going to solve, but I have to follow order of operations and do what's in parentheses first. So I have 1/2 of 5 times 13. 9 plus 4 is 13. So now I have 1/2 times 5 times 13. And you can, again, do it however you'd like. I think multiplying 13 times 5 right now makes the most sense, so I'm going to do that. And when I multiply 13 times 5, and you can come over here and do that if you want, you're going to get 65. So now I need to find 1/2 of 65. And when I do that, I'm going to realize that it is 32.5. All right, I'm going to come over here because I'm running out of room. My area will be equal to 32.5 kilometers squared. Remember, it's area, so it's going to be in square units. All right, now let's see if we can find the area of these two figures. All right. I kind of like using the formula instead of breaking it all down. So let's use the formula since this is a trapezoid and it has two bases. let's go ahead and use our formula A equals 1/2 H times B1, base 1, plus base 2. All right, so A equals 1/2. My height in this is 9. My top base or base 1 is 5, plus my bottom base is 12. So again, we're going to follow order of operations, and we're going to say 1/2 of 9 times 5 plus 12 is 17. All right, let's go ahead and finish multiplying now. We know that the area is equal to 1/2. 9 times 17 is 153. And as soon as I saw that it was 153, I know I'm either going to have a fraction in my answer or I'm going to have a decimal, whichever you prefer using. Because when I divide this in half, this is not an even number, so I know I'm going to end up with a decimal or a fraction. And you're going to get 76 1/2, or if you're writing it as a decimal, 76.5. All right, now to find the area of the kite, remember I have to use the adjacent. So when I cut this kite or decompose it, I'm going to decompose it this way. And I'm going to have a small triangle and a large triangle. All right, and so in order to do this, I've got to find the area of 2 triangles. All right, so I'm going to find the area of triangle number 1, and I'm going to add it to the area of triangle number 2. All right, and what's our formula for a triangle? 1/2 BH plus 1/2 BH. All right, so let's look at our shape. All right, our first one, they have a 3 on either side. Well, let's add those together and make those our base. So what is 3 plus 3? It is 6. So 1/2 of 6, and our height, it says, is 7.5 for the big triangle. Plus 1/2, my base is still going to be 6 for the small triangle. But my height is much smaller. It's only 2. All right, now let's multiply 1/2 times 6 times 7.5. This might be a time where you say, I want to do the 1/2 of 6 and just multiply 7.5 times 3. That's fine, and you're going to get 22.5. And then we're going to add it to, again, 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Now, when you go to join these together, remember this 6 is the same as 6.0. So when you're adding it to your decimal, you have to line them up. This is the whole number. If I were to put it under the 5, I would be making it a 10th, and I'm not going to get the right answer. But when I do that, I get 28.5 miles squared. So my total area for my kite is 28.5 miles squared. All right, so we know for finding the area of a trapezoid, we're going to use this formula, base, 1/2 of the height, adding the bases together and multiplying to the height, and then finding 1/2. So let's go ahead and look at this shape. And this time I want you all to try it. I want you to see if you can fill in. We're always going to start off with our formula. So write that first. All right, so I'm going to give you the opportunity to see if you can fill in all the numbers correctly. All right, did everyone get A equals 1/2 of 6? I knew that was the height because there's my right angle. 1/2 of 6 times 5 plus 9. All right, what do I need to do first? I need to take care of my parentheses. So I'm going to keep my 1/2 times 6. And I'm going to add my 5 plus 9. That is 14. All right. Now you can do either one. You can find half of 14 or you can find half of 6. Either one is pretty easy. So if you want to do the bigger number, you could say 6 times, what is 1/2 of 14? 7. So my area is equal to 42, and my unit of measure this time is feet. It is area, so it must be squared. How many of you were able to do that? Good. It's not hard, right? All right, now looking at this shape, it too is a trapezoid. So there's no reason why I can't use my formula, but who can tell me which number they think will be the height? Now remember, I have to have base 1 and base 2, and they're always parallel to one another. So what do you think the height is going to be? Is it going to be 8 or 5? They're both connected to that right angle. Which one do you think is the height? If you chose 5, you are correct, because this is base 1 and this is base 2. Or you could say this is base 1 and this is base 2. Base 1, base 2. All right, so let's start off with our formula. Let's write A equals 1/2 of the height times base 1 plus base 2. All right, now let's start filling in our numbers. If we said our height was 5 and base 1 was 8 plus 4, now we're going to take care of our parentheses. 8 plus 4 is 12. You could say 1/2 of 5 times 12 is 60. 1/2 of 60 is 30. 30 millimeters squared. Does everyone see that? So A is equal to 30 millimeters squared. All right, let's try one last shape. And this time I want you to start it. I'm going to give you a few minutes to go from beginning to end. Start with your formula, plug in your numbers, take care of your parentheses first, and solve. All right, let's see how you did. You should have started with your formula. A equals 1/2 of the height times base 1 plus base 2. And then you should have plugged in your numbers. Obviously the 1/2 stays. My height is 6. My bases are 7.7 plus 2.3. And when I add my bases together, I get the total of 10.0, or I can drop the 0.0. And now I can say A equals 1/2 of 60. A equals 30. What's my measurement? inches squared. How many of you got that? If you did, you did it exactly right. And you should be successful in your assignment today. Good luck, and if you have any questions, let me know.